In this video, we're going to show you to install parking brake shoes on your Nissan Quest located behind your rear rotors. Using a 21mm socket, loosen and remove your lug nuts. With the lug nuts removed, loosen and remove the wheel, set it aside. Let's go ahead and remove our two 19mm bolts holding the caliper and bracket to the knuckle itself. I'm going to start with the bottom bolt. Now I'm using a box wrench or an open end wrench to go ahead and get this out due to clearance. Once we get this lower bolt out, we're going to come up to the top and loosen and remove this one. Hold on to the caliper and the bracket, remove that bolt. I'm going to slide this off. And you want to use a caliper tool like this here to hang this up out of the way. Go ahead and grab that brake rotor and wiggle that off. Before we start tearing our parking brake shoes apart, you want to go ahead and soak it down, spray it down with some solvent. What this is doing is it's removing all of the brake dust so we can safely go ahead and handle this without breathing in any of that, as well as cleaning it up, make it easier for us to remove everything. Now our parking brake shoes are held in place by a few different components. We have two pins here with the retainer springs. We have a horizontal spring, we have the adjuster, and on the bottom we have parking brake activation. Now we're going to use this tool here. It has a notch in it to go ahead and get behind the spring itself. Release that spring, pull that out and set that aside. We have the adjuster here. We could spread these parking shoes apart and pull this out. Now if we note, this side here is a free floating pin. This side is the threaded adjuster. So that needs to be facing towards the front of the vehicle. On the sides here, we have the pin with the retainer spring. I want to go ahead and pull that out. Pinch, push, and rotate. That releases the pin, spring, and the cap. Set that aside. We have one on the back shoe as well. Pinch, push, and rotate. So you can use a flathead screwdriver. This has a flat notch in it here, and as you twist it, it turns this end key, and it'll line up with a notch on the backing plate that'll allow this to release. Set that aside. Now from underneath, we have another spring here. This is a horizontal spring attaching the two parking shoes together, and then we have the actuator right here. So in most cases, we can stretch that spring by grabbing that parking shoe and just stretch that over and then slide that out. Okay, insert the shoe there. And work that spring over the actuator. Now we have the actuator fit into the notches on both sides here. Now that we have the springs set up and the actuator is engaged here, we now want to go ahead and insert our springs and pins on both sides of the shoes. Now right where our shoes are, they make contact with the backing plate in 6 different points. There's 1, 2, 3. And then there's 3 contact points on the other side. I'm going to take a little bit of grease on my glove and put a little bit on each of these points. Now we're going to take our pin, our spring. I'm going to bring that over. Now the slot in the backing plate is vertical, so we're going to line up our pin. Grab our screwdriver. We're going to push this pin in, and once it goes through the backing plate, we're going to twist it. Now that's locked into place. I'm going to repeat for the back one. Now that we have our shoes anchored, we can go ahead and install our adjuster. Now before we install our adjuster, let's go ahead and disassemble it. Now if yours isn't spinning apart nice and easy like this, you're going to need to go ahead and work on that. Make sure that it is spinning freely. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a small dab of grease on this here. And I'm going to lubricate that and run that on down. Then we have our end cap here that goes in. You want to make sure that there's a small dab of grease in there. I want to make sure that this pivots freely as well. Just going to wipe it down, make sure we don't have any excess grease that can get onto our brakes after. Go ahead and adjust the notches here. Install your spring. Kind of center these here. Let's go ahead and clean our hub face. You want to make sure that there's no rust buildup around the flange at all. We're now going to apply some anti-seize compound to the hub face. So now we're going to use our screwdriver and we're going to push down on the adjuster wheel. And what we're doing is we're causing this to expand, pushing the shoes out. I'm going to repeat this process, sliding the rotor on. And we have still have some play there. Now in our instance, I went too far. I expanded the shoes too far. Simple enough. You're now going to take the adjuster wheel and spin it the other way. Center them. Then try it again. There it is, right there. Perfect. You can use a pick or a screwdriver. Just pry that out. Line that up. Insert that into your rotor. You can use this hole as an access to the adjuster to do some fine tuning if it need be. Grab the caliper and bracket, remove the tool. Make sure your brake pads are spread enough to get around the rotor. Slide that into place. Insert the bolt through the knuckle and into the caliper bracket. We'll get that started. Once you get that one started, we'll get the bottom one started as well, and then we'll tighten them down. Once we get this one bottomed out, we'll go ahead and proceed to the bottom. Torque the caliper bracket to knuckle bolts to 62 foot-pounds. The bottom one, we're going to use a crow's foot style on our torque wrench to gain access to it. Now that we've installed the parking brake shoes, you want to hop into the vehicle, activate the parking brake. You're going to go ahead and operate it a couple times, make sure that the vehicle holds. You want to put the vehicle in drive with the parking brake on and test it and make sure that the vehicle does not move. If it does need adjustment, go ahead and put the car back in park. You're going to have to come out to the wheel and open up the adjuster and readjust that as necessary. But you want to go ahead and do that as many times as it takes to adjust those parking brake shoes. Go ahead and install your wheel. You want to go ahead and start all of your lug nuts by hand. That'll prevent cross-threading of the studs. Once you have them all started, go ahead and snug them down. Ideally, you want to do this in a crisscross pattern. Go ahead and torque down your lug nuts to 80 foot-pounds. We're going to do this in a crisscross pattern. At that point there, you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.